What is up YouTube? It's Kingfisher745, and in this video we're going to talk a little bit about the armor sale, and I'll give you my opinions on each one. Interestingly enough, this graphic was actually going to be for my top 5 or 10 lists, basically for any videos where I try to answer some of these questions with my opinions or rankings. But that's just a side note. We'll get right to my thoughts, opinions, and analysis of the uniforms. First of all, of course I'm making this video because many of you asked me to do this, and I believe the Safeguard suits are on sale until October 14th. At least that's what I was told. When it comes to ranking or talking about this stuff, it is my opinion and everyone's differs. Some of you may have great strategies and setups for some of the armors that I rank the lowest, so it doesn't necessarily mean they're worthless or that you can't build around them. In fact, as far as the Safeguard suits, I believe they're all worth having, but I'm sure that not everyone can afford to buy all of the suits. So hopefully I can help those of you who need some advice on which ones to buy first. I'll also briefly talk about the empowered armor. So first, the Infiltrator's empowered armor. This is probably my favorite of the bunch. It allows you to extend recharge and gain combat reflexes as a free action. So it's like you're a level 15. Gaining the counterattack, the increased damage, chance to evade enemy attacks. All of that is great, but it also makes your attacks stealthy, and you can use this to your advantage right away. Because of all that, I really love this uniform. So basically, like I said, I'd put that at the top, either tied or slightly below another uniform that we'll look at later. By the way, if you have it, you can also put the Covert E-ISO on it, which is an amazing combination. But moving on, the Blaster's empowered armor really isn't that great. Don't get me wrong, it's not bad, but I would just say it's okay. And because of that, I would place it at the low end of this list. The Bruiser's empowered armor I would put pretty much in the same boat. It's just going to allow you to gain a stack of Enrage as a free action. Not bad, but not great. I just don't find myself using either one of these last two uniforms. Now the third best empowered uniform is going to be the Scrapper's, and that's because it extends recharge, allowing you to gain close quarters combat as a free action. Basically, you're going to get a follow-up attack, and in the right build, say with Spider-Man Noir and Rocket Raccoon, that could be pretty awesome. So it's not a bad start off point, and also you can place the Combatant E-ISO on it. That prevents effects that lock out melee attacks, makes you immune to winded, and performing a follow-up attack increases attack and chance of critical hits. It does have some downsides though. For example, Iron Fist is going to punch you in the face. All in all, not a bad armor to have. Not that this one really matters, but the Infiltrator's flight suit, well, that one just makes me sad. Now I know the Tactician's empowered armor is on the next page, but we will talk about that. And the Generalists, hopefully you received as a gift. As for the Safeguard suits, finally, we begin by looking at the Tacticians. This suit makes you immune to exhausted, and then debuff actions that are not quick actions may be a quick action once per round. Also, chance to apply Hobbled with single target damaging attacks. First of all, immune to exhausted is really awesome. That's one of the best benefits about this suit. Unfortunately, with the changes to quick actions, the debuff actions becoming quick actions isn't nearly as great. Before the changes to quick actions, this suit was pretty amazing. Don't get me wrong, it still has its uses, especially if you want to use it with the Blackest Void. So you'll make the Blackest Void a quick action. This could even remove something like the Mystic Shroud, and then you could still use another action to debuff the enemy team. Also, if you are using a single target damaging attack, Hobbled is pretty awesome. But because of the changes to quick actions, but still the potential use of a debuff action as a quick action, plus immune to exhausted, we'd put this one in the middle of the pack. Not great, but not the worst. Also, like I said at the beginning, all the Safeguard suits would be worth having, so there is potential for every single one. Moving on, next to the Blaster Safeguard suit. This is the best Blaster suit there is. That may be enough for some of you right there, but as far as a ranking, I would probably put it at number 2, or at least tied for second. That's because this suit makes you immune to impaired, it gives you a shield effect that absorbs incoming damage, and that can actually get pretty nasty. I've had teams and characters that actually had a difficult time hurting a blaster safeguard agent, but that's not exactly the selling point because that's not guaranteed. The great thing is you can use all the amazing blaster EISO. On top of that, you get the immune to impaired, yes, the shield, but then attacking an enemy will not activate their class ability. So for example, you could hit a tactician. On top of all of this, the next damaging attack applies staggered. That's huge in today's PvP. That's because if you apply stagger to an agent that has the Hugins Eye, you can then hit them with unarmed attacks. So there are a ton of uses and team-ups for this armor. Then there's also going to be a new blaster EISO that you can win this season, so just keep all of that in mind. Quickly going back to the empowered armors, the Tactician's empowered armor was always one of my favorites. That's because Momentary Advantage gives you an extra turn as a free action. Unfortunately, you don't start the battle with this, but on the second round, you can gain 2 turns, and by then the opponents are usually set up, that is with debuffs, and you can unleash 2 huge attacks. You can also still use the Quick Empowered ISO 8 on it, so for a very long time this was my favorite uniform. Back to the safeguard suits though, the Bruisers is my number 1. I would call it a must buy. If you've watched my videos, I know you've seen me use it a million times. In my opinion, it is so valuable. Why? Well, it makes you immune to neutralized, but more importantly, it reduces damage received by 25%. That is great for a tank agent. Oh, and what else is necessary? Well, you have to protect. It provides that too. In fact, you protect against single target and area attacks. Yes, this is every other round, but it does eliminate the need for a protect weapon. Previously, if you wanted to protect with your agent, it had to take up an equipment slot. This eliminates that. It also, not to even downplay it, has a chance to apply Cower with single target attacks. Cower of course is an incredible debuff. But basically, I use this because I want my agent to tank. He can take damage like just about nobody else. Especially since you can place things like the Hugins Eye on him, as well as the Elite EISO on this uniform. That of course gives him Absorb Energy. So the Bruiser Safeguard suit is easily my number 1, the one I couldn't do without. Next, the Scrapper Safeguard suit does give you immune to Winded, and also you have a chance to prevent and counter enemy counterattacks and follow-up attacks. Plus the next attack will apply wide open. Now that chance to prevent is basically a combo breaker for your agent, and it can be an absolute lifesaver. It can also do a ton of damage. The problem is it's only a chance, and doesn't always kick in. On top of that, it is every other round, but even on that beginning round for example, it doesn't always happen. That does end up dropping its usefulness, so that's why I'd place this one in the middle of the pack. Originally, I wanted to place it higher because I've seen some very successful team-ups and builds around it. It ended up doing a ton of damage, and the chance to interrupt kicked in quite often, but like I said, it's not entirely reliable. Because of that, I would get the Bruisers and probably the Blasters before it, although like I said, I almost placed it at number 2, if only that chance to prevent always worked. Then finally, for the Safeguard suits, we have the Infiltrators. This one makes you immune to off balance, then you have an increased chance to dodge attacks, plus the next attack applies Fumbling. Fumbling is great, don't get me wrong, and having an increased chance to dodge, well, that could come in handy, but dodge isn't that reliable. There are tons of effects, debuffs, and so on that pretty much takes away your dodge chance. So, kind of one of the bigger draws is the immune to off balance. Well, if you have the Covert EISO, it already does that. So you're much better off going with the Infiltrator's Empowered Armor and using the Covert EISO on it. If you don't have that EISO, maybe you want to give this a shot, especially with a heavy counterattack team or setup. But I would put this at the bottom of the Safeguard suit list. So there you have it, my views and opinions on the suits. It actually went longer than I thought, and I'm sorry that there wasn't any action, but hopefully I've helped some of you out. And possibly Hyperion's ult may come out today, so if it does, we'll try to have a video on that as well. Next up, schedule-wise, is going to be another Adamantium Process episode, so I'll work on that for tomorrow. As for this one, that's going to be it, but I want to thank you all for watching, ask you to please like, comment, and subscribe. Then until next time, good luck, and take care.